Most great app ideas never get built, and it has nothing to do with the quality of the idea. It has to do with what happens the moment someone tries to figure out how to execute it. They hit a wall of terms they don't understand, quotes they weren't expecting, and options that all seem to contradict each other. And most of the time, nobody stops to explain how any of it actually fits together. That's what we do. My name is Uka and I work at Calda, an award-winning app development agency where we build apps for businesses and early-stage startups, and we help founders go to market as quickly and efficiently as possible. Building an app in 2026 has never been more accessible. That said, it's also never been more confusing. What we've been watching over the last few years is a landscape that has changed faster than most people can keep up with. New tools are appearing every few months. Terms like vibe coding and low-code are being thrown around without much explanation. And the question we hear more often than almost any other is, so what's the right way to actually build this thing? That's exactly what we're going to answer today. So what's actually going on in the market? The way software gets built has gone through a fundamental shift in the last 3 years. A few years ago, if you wanted an app, your only real option was to hire a development team, spend 6 months building it, and hope that market still cared about your idea when you finally launched. That was the process. There was no debate. Now, there are 3 different approaches to building software, and each one is legitimate for different reasons. Each one has real advantages, real limitations, and a specific type of founder or product it serves best. The problem is that most people treat them like they're competing with each other, as if you have to pick one and defend it. Understanding what each approach actually is and what it's actually good for is what separates the founders who make smart, fast decisions from the ones who either overspend on the wrong thing or underinvest in something that needed more. So let's walk through each one. Vibe coding is exactly what it sounds like. You describe what you want in plain English and an AI tool writes the code for you. You type, "Build me a login screen with email and Google sign-in," and it appears. Or you type, "Add a dashboard that shows the last 30 days of user activity." No syntax, no debugging, no waiting on a developer to have availability. Tools like Lovable, Bolt, and Cursor have made this extremely practical. And the numbers reflect how fast adoption has moved. According to recent data, 41% of all code written globally was AI generated, and 92% of developers in the US now use AI coding tools on a daily basis. This is not a niche trend. It's the new default behavior for anyone building software. So the obvious question is, if AI can build your app for you, why would you need anything else? Because there is a very important distinction between an app that can be demonstrated and an app that can be depended on. Look, the pros are real. The speed is unlike anything that existed 3 years ago. You can go from an idea to a clickable, functional prototype in days, sometimes hours. The cost is minimal without developer rates, project scopes, and waiting. So for testing an idea, getting something in front of a potential user, or understanding whether a concept even works before you spend serious money on it, vibe coding is the fastest and cheapest path available. But the cons are also real, and they matter. Here's something most people do not think about. AI coding tools do not actually understand your product. They generate code based on patterns they were trained on, not on any understanding of how your specific system is supposed to work. The code they generate is optimized for speed and readability, not for scale, security, or long-term maintenance. A 2025 security report testing over 100 AI models found that AI-generated code introduced security vulnerabilities in 45% of all coding tasks. 45, that's almost half. And those vulnerabilities are not typos. They're the kind of gaps that allow a user to access data that is not theirs or that bring down a production environment the moment real traffic hits it. Beyond the security gaps, the code is also difficult to build on top of over time, which means that what feels like a fast start can quietly become a ceiling. All things considered, vibe coding is most powerful when you use it for what it is genuinely good at: validation and prototyping. That's getting something tangible in front of a real person before you have committed a significant budget to building the actual product. And if you're at this stage right now and you want a second opinion on whether what you have built is ready to go further, that is exactly the kind of conversation we have at Calda. If you've already built something with AI and you're not sure if it's solid or just looks solid, that's exactly what we help founders figure out. Low-code development sits in a category that a lot of people misunderstand, usually because the name makes it sound like a much lesser version of traditional development. It's not. And here's why. Low-code platforms are visual development environments that compile into production-grade code. You're building with real databases, real user authentication, real-time data handling, custom business logic, and API integration while having full ownership of your code. The apps you produce can then be submitted to the App Store and Google Play. Let's get specific about what that actually means. When a low-code platform handles your database, it's not just storing data in a spreadsheet. It's setting up a structured, relational database with properly defined relationships between your data tables. When it handles authentication, it is implementing industry-standard security flows, and when handling API integrations, it's connecting your product to the services it depends on in a way that is maintainable and documented. These are not surface-level features. They are the foundation of a real product. The pros are significant. You get a production-ready product, not a prototype, in a very short amount of time. The cost is relatively low, and the ceiling is higher than most people assume. Companies have raised multi-million-dollar seed rounds on low-code built products, while others have scaled to hundreds of thousands of active users without ever touching a custom code base. So you can imagine that for a large number of successful startups, it never becomes necessary to move beyond it. That said, no approach is without its trade-offs, and low-code is no exception. There are things you can build and things you cannot, and those limits depend on the platform you're using. If your product requires a highly specific technical architecture, or if the technology itself is the core differentiator of your business, you may eventually hit a wall. You are also, to some degree, dependent on the platform continuing to exist and evolve in the direction your product needs. The question to ask yourself when considering low-code is not, is this as powerful as fully custom code? The question is this powerful enough for what I need to build right now? Because in most cases, at least for an early stage product, the answer is yes. If you're at this stage, validated idea, ready to build something real, this is usually where we step in and help founders move fast without overbuilding. The link to our webpage is in the description below. Custom development is the approach where a team of engineers writes every line of code from scratch, with complete control over every architectural decision. When you own the full code base, there are no platform constraints, no pricing tiers that restrict what features you can build, and no dependency on a third-party tool deciding to change direction. Teams that execute traditional development well can build infrastructure that scales cleanly from a few 100,000 users to millions. So, what does that actually look like in 2026? The modern custom stack includes a few dominant technologies. Next, for the front end, which is a React framework that handles both the user interface and server-side logic in the same codebase. Supabase for the backend, which gives you a PostgreSQL database, user authentication, file storage, and real-time data out of the box. And Vercel for deployment, which handles scaling automatically and gives you a new preview environment for every change your team makes. The pros of custom development are clear. You have complete ownership of what you build from day one. No ceiling on what you can build and full control over performance, security, architecture, and how the product evolves. If your technology is your competitive advantage, meaning the way your system works is the thing that makes your business defensible, custom development is the right environment to build it in. The cons are equally clear. It's by far the most expensive and slowest of the three approaches. It requires technical leadership, code review, architecture decisions, quality assurance, and ongoing maintenance from people who understand the system deeply. That's a pretty heavy investment. And if you decide to start here before you have validated what you're building, you can spend 6 months and hundreds of thousands of dollars producing something precisely the way you envisioned it, only to discover that the assumptions you made at the start were wrong. By that point, most of your runway is gone and the market has moved. That's not a failure of custom development. That is what happens when the most powerful tool in the shed gets picked up at the wrong moment. Here's the honest answer. It depends on where you are. If you're still in the stage of figuring out whether your idea is worth pursuing, whether real people want it, and whether the core experience even makes sense, vibe coding is the right tool. It costs almost nothing and gives you real information fast. Use it to learn, not to launch. If you have validated the idea and need a real product, something with a real database, real users, and a real experience that you can charge for, low-code development gives you that at a speed and cost that custom development cannot match at this stage. Most early-stage products belong here. Now, if your technology is inherently complex, if what makes your product valuable is something that no existing platform can support, or if you're past the point of validation and scaling into serious infrastructure, custom development is where you should be putting your resources. The mistake most founders make is not choosing the wrong approach. It's choosing the right approach for the wrong moment. Spending custom development budget on something that has not been validated yet, or staying in prototype mode long after the idea has proven itself, the approach matters less than the timing. The reason so many app ideas never get built is not a lack of tools. There have never been more ways to build software than there are right now. The reason is that nobody explains how to think about it clearly. Vibe coding, low code, and traditional development are not competitors. They are options, each one built for a different set of circumstances. So before you do anything else, ask yourself one honest question. What do I actually need right now? Not in 2 years, right now. Because the answer to that question is the only thing that determines which approach is right for you. If you're serious about building your app and you want a clear answer on what to do next, book a free call with us below. We'll look at your idea, tell you exactly what approach makes sense and whether it's even worth building right now. And if this video helped you think about developing your app more clearly, the like and subscribe button are right there. See you in the next one.